Giving feedback has always had me on the struggle bus. And, I used to think that it was because I didn't know what to say or because I was a people pleaser. And while those things are true, what I have learned is that I just had a totally warped perspective on what feedback actually is and what it isn't. And, you can practice giving feedback all day long, but if you don't understand these five key truths I'm going to share with you today, it really won't matter. You see, here's how I see it. You can sit through a driver's ed class and learn all the theory about driving a car. But if you don't actually understand how a car works, like not just how to drive it, but how the car itself functions, then you're not going to be successful, right? You need both. You need how it works and how to drive it before you can really get behind the wheel and start practicing. So by the end of this episode, you'll know the five surprising truths I've learned about feedback that have completely changed how I approach it and also how I feel about it. Sound good? Okay, let's get into it. I want you to think about what the goal is of giving feedback, whether it's positive feedback or constructive feedback, whether it's directed towards someone's behavior or their work output. When you're giving feedback to your employee, what is your goal? And let me tell you what my goal used to be. It used to be stop doing the thing. My feedback was basically just targeted at getting my employee to do what I thought they should be doing or to stop doing what I thought they shouldn't be doing, right? Like I wanted to see them be more open to new ideas, or I wanted them to have a more patient tone with their coworkers, or greater attention to detail on that program guide, or even like a deeper understanding of the branding so that we had a consistent message when talking to clients. Those are the things I wanted. Essentially, I just wanted the problems to go away. And there isn't anything wrong with that in and of itself, but behavior or work output modification isn't actually the goal of feedback. So, truth number one is that the goal of feedback is their success. Not my way, not my comfort, not my convenience, just their success. So when we give feedback, we should be looking for what is hindering their success and then helping them see it and remove it. So I don't know why. I've always hated the phrase like feedback is a gift. I don't know why. I think it just feels like a cop out, like you're sugarcoating what needs to be said. But when we see the goal of feedback as removing barriers to someone else's success, then yeah, it's definitely a gift. So I had an employee who would get really emotionally charged in meetings when someone would suggest something that she didn't really agree with, or maybe she felt like it would be the wrong way to go. And this became very personal for her. And because of that, she would get really emotional in meetings. Did it make meetings harder to have as a team? Yes. Did it sometimes stop us in our progress? Yes. But more than that, it was so draining for her. I mean, she clearly felt like she was carrying the weight of something that wasn't hers to carry. I learned that she was afraid that if she didn't speak up, it would come back and be her fault. And that pressure was causing her to have extreme emotions, which sounds reasonable. And that's a super stressful way to have to do work day in and day out. And not only was it stressful, but her reactions were damaging relationships on the team. So this behavior was a major hurdle to her success. And after several feedback conversations, over time, things started to improve and she started to feel more free and less stuck in these meetings. But here's the best part. Now she works for a different organization, but she says that her success today in her current role would not have been possible without the feedback and growth she went through when she worked for us. And it wasn't easy. It was not pretty, but it was preparing her for her next and greater success. So the goal of feedback is removing any hurdles to their success. We can go into a feedback conversation genuinely on their team, on their side, saying, hey, from where I stand, this is how I see it. This thing you are doing is keeping you from success in this role. And if we actually take on that perspective, then we can have peace of mind and we can have clarity going into these conversations, regardless of how our employees react. Okay, moving on to truth number two. Feedback is an ongoing conversation. If you head into a feedback conversation thinking that this is a one and done moment, something you can just check off a box, then you will either hype it up, you'll make it way too big of a deal, or you'll underdeliver and you'll end up right back where you started. And honestly, neither of those help anyone. This truth is actually really, really good news, my friend. It gives you permission to just take the pressure off. You don't have to get it perfect. You don't need to have a full solution. You just need to leave with one clear next step. It's something that keeps the conversation going. And remember, I've said this before, you are supposed to be the CFG, the chief feedback giver and requester. So your conversations should be laced with feedback, both encouragement and correction, as part of a larger relationship, not just this one-off performance review or some impromptu feedback. Now, here's something that helped me. It might click for you. I recently inherited a sourdough starter. Okay. I inherited it. I did not ask for it. It was handed to me. And now I basically have a fourth child living in my refrigerator. So I haven't had the time to fully experiment with it. It's literally sitting in there just waiting for me to someday decide to start. But here's what gives me hope. Sourdough baking is an art, right? And I know I'm not going to get it right the first time. I'm going to have to learn about temperatures and timing and moisture and what I even bake the thing in and scoring all the cool designs. And then I live in like a high altitude. So how does that affect all the things? I have to learn all the things. But that's okay because my friendly little starter in my fridge isn't a one and done. You don't have to go and get a new starter every time you mess up a loaf, right? You feed it, you learn, you try again. And feedback works the exact same way. Every conversation is just a chance to learn, and it's a chance to learn on both sides. So even if it's a little messy, it's still moving you forward. If your conversation doesn't land on this perfect resolution, right? It doesn't like start and end in that meeting, then that is not a failure. It's just part of this process. So remember to just end with that one clear next step. That's all you have to do. And you can take the pressure off. Take the expectation off because this kind of feedback, it is a journey. It is not a single moment. And just like sourdough, it gets better the more you tend to it, right? That's what I'm told. So I will let you know how that one works out. Moving on to truth number 3. And this is something that probably should not have been as mind-blowing to me as it was, but it was mind-blowing. So here it is. Feedback conversations are dialogue, not monologue. So if you are the only one talking, you're not doing it right. And here's why this is so important. You are coming at this feedback conversation with your own perspective, right? And with your own assumptions on what the root issue is that is warranting a feedback conversation. So naturally, you're going to go into it having already decided what the problem is. And sometimes we go into it having already decided what the solution is. But the only way you can be sure that there is agreement on what the core issue is to ask. So you can put it out there. This was the situation. This was what I observed. This was the impact. But what if they see it differently? What we tend to do is go in having decided what we believe and what we will say, and we completely bulldoze the person. Then we're surprised when our monologue concludes and there is more confusion than when the whole conversation started. So let's just pretend, for the sake of an example, that one of our employees messed up donors' names on an event webpage. And because of this, a few donors got really upset. So you go in ready to address this work output, right? You're making some assumptions that there was a lack of attention to detail or it got rushed and it didn't get double checked. So you start the conversation and you lay it all out there, only to find out that the donor page was delegated to another employee. So you have bulldozed instead of leaning in with curiosity to figure out what happened and to get alignment on what the core issue actually is. And this again, this should just be very freeing, okay, when it comes to our fears or worries around giving feedback. When you see it as just a curious conversation, there is less pressure to deliver a verdict that probably isn't necessary or probably isn't even appropriate. And this perfectly leads us to truth number 4, which is you might be wrong. What if you went into every constructive feedback conversation with the genuine approach of, you know, I might be wrong. And this is exactly how you build a leadership reputation that says that you care about your team's perspective. And this doesn't mean you have to lead with words like, I might be wrong here, but you can say, this is what I perceived. And I'm curious if you agree. And this approach doesn't just say, I might be wrong, but it tells your team that you don't always think that you're right. You don't always have the answer, and you know it. And this is really what humility played out in real time looks like, right? But here's the thing. Here's what I also love about this one. This attitude of curiosity instead of assumptions totally erases a you versus me approach. So it suddenly isn't about who wins or who is right, but it's about learning what the other person's perspective is. It's about being for them. And friend, this isn't just work stuff here, right? Like this is life stuff. Just imagine if our marriages had conversations with this approach. Imagine if our political parties, for goodness sake, had this approach. Imagine if we were just all more willing to admit that we might be wrong about what we perceive from or about others, that our assumptions favor our own case and rarely give the benefit of the doubt to others. So let me challenge you. Lead like this at work, but lead like this in your day-to-day life too. Okay, the final truth about feedback that we need to know is that disagreement is a good thing. What do I mean? So you make feedback a two-way conversation, not a monologue. You curiously ask if they agree with your perception of the situation, and they say, no, I don't agree. Is that a dead end? Has the feedback failed? Where do you even go from there? What do? You welcome their perspective. You can say, help me understand how you see it differently. And remember, the goal here is to have a mutual agreement as to what the core issue is, because you just can't move forward until you do that. So welcome the disagreement and use it as an opportunity to have some healthy and really important discussion and discourse. And if you are met with this kind of disagreement, I just want to tell you, friend, this is a sign of health. Like, I'm happy for you if this happens. And does that surprise you? I mean, it surprised me. I used to think that disagreement meant a rejection of my feedback. But now I see the disagreement is just an open door, right? You can learn, you can build trust, you can collaborate. You are listening to hear, you're listening to be heard instead of just trying to be right. And remember, all you're looking to do here is to come to a common agreement as best as you can about what happened, what is the core issue, and then work towards that one step moving forward. And that one step could be, let's take a break and let's meet again tomorrow. And as long as you have a next step, then the conversation just keeps going. But also remember, the goal of this feedback chat is to remove any of the hurdles that might be in the way of what? What is it? Their success, right? That's the goal. The goal is not proving yourself to be right. So this is going to take some patience. And honestly, a good way to approach it is also just to be grateful for their honesty, to say, thanks for being honest. Thanks for disagreeing. And see, this moment is where the rubber meets the road in terms of what you say your values are, right? You might say that they're this, but when push comes to shove, is that how you act? This is a chance for you to prove it in these moments. Okay, so let's recap real quick. 5 truths about giving feedback that just make it easier. Number 1, the goal of feedback is their success. Number 2, feedback is part of an ongoing conversation. Number 3, feedback should be a two-way conversation, not a monologue. Number 4, remember, you might be wrong. And number 5, disagreement is a good thing. So all of that right there, going back to our driver's ed illustration, is a look at how the car functions, if you will. Okay. And I know you might be thinking, I get it, but how do I actually have the conversation? How do I account for the disagreements? Or how do I find that next best step? How do I even start the conversation? Well, I am running a summer feedback cohort that's going to teach you all of that. It's going to consist of one call once a week for 4 weeks, because I get it. Summer's busy. We all want our beach days. We all want our lake time. So this is meant to be a summer bootcamp reset that is accessible and will feel really great for you going back into the fall. So I will send out a short lesson for you to watch during the week with some teaching. And then there will be that live call that we'll have once a week. And so that live call is not going to be me teaching. I would have already done that. It's for you to do some practicing, for us to do some troubleshooting, and for you to have access to me to answer all your questions. And not to mention, you're going to have access to some awesome, like-minded leaders. So if you're interested in getting more information, you can join the waitlist. The waitlist is at heycaralist.com/cohort. And it's going to be an amazing experience. So do not miss out. Okay, friend, feedback isn't always fun, but it does not have to be something that drives fear. So if you can go in with these truths as the foundation for your mindset, you are already so far ahead and serving your team so well. And if this episode helped you, it would mean so much to me for you to leave a rating and review. When you do that, it tells the podcast people that this content is worth putting in front of other leaders like you. So I, first of all, would love to hear how it's helped you. That would be an encouragement to me, but I would also love it to help as many people as possible. So leave a rating and review, or if you're watching on YouTube, give it a thumbs up. Okay, friend, as always, I am cheering you on, and let's chat next week. Bye.